I want to bring something back, folks. I want to bring something back we used to do on the channel way back in the day. Way back. And it's a thing called Top 5 Tuesdays. And the way this is going to work is there's going to be a different top 5 list every Tuesday where we're going to tell you top 5s of different things. Maybe top 5 favorite Jedi. Maybe top 5 favorite Sith. Top 5 Spider-Man costumes. Top 5 whatever, okay? And the thing that's going to be cool is we're going to have polls out there so that people can vote on which top 5 they want us to do in the following week. And because Justin is here and because we're talking about video games, we're going to do our top 5 favorite video games of all time.
Justin, time, baby.
Give me your number 5. What is your number 5 as far as your favorite video games of all time?
This will be on the gaming channel, too. I'm going to put it up on the gaming channel. So if you just want to see this portion later, show it off to your friends, show it off to grandma.
Yeah.
You can go ahead and check that there. But let's get into it. Top 5. Very recent game, number 5.
Okay.
Monster Hunter World.
Nice. I know you love it. Tell us a little bit about why you love it.
All right. So Monster Hunter World, it comes at you with this formula where it's like you go out on this island, you kill the big monster, you skin the monster, you make it into gear, and then you use that gear to hunt bigger and badder monsters. I mean, it seems like that might be a little repetitive at base. It might get a little boring. But there's just so much that goes into Monster Hunter World. Whenever you go out into the world, you feel like you're in this like living, breathing ecosystem.
Yeah.
There's stuff running around. You'll be fighting monsters, and maybe that monster's natural predator will like come out of the woodwork and then start fighting it, and then you'll have to contend with 2 monsters at once. You can hunt monsters with up to 3 of your friends or just 3 randos out of nowhere. They had a recent patch. Expansion called Monster Hunter Iceborne, where you go into the frozen north to fight monsters, and that's just super cool. Brought a whole bunch of gear, and there's so many different ways to fight monsters. You can use a gigantic katana, you can use a lance and shield, you can use a lance and shield, but the lance has a gun in it.
Sounds
you can
dope.
use a bow, you can use a Gatling gun. Monster Hunter World, I would say just like the ultimate, boys, let's just go out and have some straight up video game fun. It's so fun.
Nice. And I see a lot of people putting some really cool games into the chat. I love it, guys. I love it. Keep it coming. I'm going to go into my number 5. Very obscure game. Almost the opposite of the kind of game that Justin's talking about. But my other ones are more normal, I promise. But number 5 for me is actually a weird computer game called Star Siege.
Ooh, I actually know that.
It was the people that made Tribes.
Yeah.
So Star Siege was a mech game, and I felt the story in the game was amazing. It was super captivating to me. It had to do with these people that wanted to be immortal, but they wanted to like keep their actual first human brain. And there's this concept of they would take people's brains and put them into new bodies and then have them live new lives as these like immortals. And then there's a big conflict between like Mars and Earth and stuff like that, and this alien technology. It was fantastic. And the reason that I think it's my number 5 game is I was just trying to think of, like, for me, my favorite games, the ones that I just spent the most time playing. And Star Siege was a game that I played a lot of. So Star Siege is my number 5. Hit me with your number 4, Justin.
Number 4, we are going back to the PlayStation 1 era with my number 4. PS1, super, super near and dear to my heart. But number 4 is a little game known as Suikoden 2.
Suikoden 2. I've never even heard of it.
Suikoden 2 is a massive, massive cult classic. Basically, one of the big draws of the Suikoden series in general, and back at the time, this was freaking revolutionary, was there were 108 characters you could recruit.
Wow.
108 characters. You got your own castle that you could sort of upgrade over the course of the story. And it told this like huge wartime story after you get drawn out of your village. Both you and your like character's best friend are on opposing sides of the war, and you sort of have to deal with that. And the main antagonist, Luca Blight, is just the perfect storm of a chaotic, evil antagonist.
Nice,
like the second you meet him in your village is he like forces this woman to crawl on all of her floors and oink like a pig so he won't kill her, and then she says, "You won't kill me, right?" And he's like, "Pigs don't deserve to live," and he just impales her.
Gross.
And walks away.
Amazing.
His boss theme is called To Kill a Butcher.
Okay, nice.
And It's a brilliant wartime story. I highly recommend playing it if you get the chance. I think it's even on PSN, so you should be able to pick it up there.
Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, so I'll go to my number 4. My number 4 is Final Fantasy 11. Final Fantasy 11 was it was such a special MMO. It might have been the first MMO that I really took seriously, and man, it's just a game that, as a Final Fantasy fan, it had all the music, all of the different creatures. It was like everything from Final Fantasy all mashed together. And I had a blast playing that. I played it for several years, and my cousin and I, who are big gamers together, like when we were younger, we would game so much together. Final Fantasy 11 was a game that, particularly at a time in my life where, school was kind of a drag, there was stuff going on at home that wasn't that cool. Final Fantasy 11 was a total escape avenue for me, and was a game that I was just able to fully dive into and just do that MMO thing where, there's community side where you met people and you had people that you constantly played with, and it was really magical, but also progression and using all of your time to progress this character. And
you really had to dive into that. It was super hardcore, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. So the quality of life stuff really wasn't there until much later in the game.
Like Chains of Promathia era, something like that.
Yeah. So it was a great game, but yeah, pretty hardcore.
But you can't say that. By the way, I don't have Final Fantasy 14 on my list, even though I love it. I had to do one game per franchise.
Yep.
But you got to tell us what you played. You can't leave us there without telling us what you played. That's
an
MMO rule.
I started with a Red Mage. I loved the Red Mage. They also had subclasses in there. And so there were Red Mages that subbed either White Mage or Black Mage that were really interesting. But my ultimate class, the one that I landed on and played the most, was Samurai. And the Samurai with the Ninja subclass was fucking dope. Oh my God, was it dope.
And you had that 3 hour Zantetsuken, 3 hour real time charge that skill.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? There was a lot of stuff like that in the game where it's like you had to literally wait like sometimes 24 hours real time to be able to like do cool things.
Yeah.
You had literally once per day. You had all sorts of stuff. Yeah, it was really, really fun. But yeah, that's what I played. Why don't you hit us with your what are we?
We're on 3.
We're 3. Hit me with your number 3.
Hitting us with the number 3. You knew this was going to be on my list, Josh. This was my game of the decade, Nier Automata.
Yeah, tell us more about Nier. I don't think enough people know about it.
Nier.
It's not. Wait, hang on. It's not an American movie.
It's
How
not even a
did
movie.
it win Best Picture? How? Okay, tell us more about Nier, because not enough people know about it.
So, Nier Automata is a game I would say I recommend that you dive in and play if you're looking to have an existential crisis, because that is what the game promises to bring you. It's made by Platinum Games, who's known for making like super high-octane, real good action games, like Metal Gear Rising. That was Platinum Games, total Devil May Cry style play style. But on top of that, it's got this like super deep, sad story that like really explores what it means to be human, like conceptually deep down what it means to be human.
I like that. Yeah.
All of these different characters with their differing motivations, they're really like super. I neglect to say 3-dimensional because I know that's a little like schmaltzy, but that's really the only way I can say it. And man, there was a point where during the second end, because you actually have to beat the game 5 times to get the full story, and it sort of changes a little bit every single time. But there was a point in the second ending where I actually had to walk away from the game for 3 months just because that ending hit me so hard that I physically could not bring myself to boot up the game.
Wow.
And it's one of those games that only should exist as a video game. I feel like if it made a movie of it or an anime series or something, that lack of interactivity would just make the game lesser.
Interesting.
And that's really that's like one of the first times I've ever had to say that about a
That's
game.
awesome, dude. And you know what's cool? I love the chat right now, guys. You guys are blowing it up with so many cool games. I love it. I'm so proud of this community. Okay, number 3 for me, Mass Effect 1.
Yeah.
Now we're getting into the nitty gritty. You know what I mean? Because I have similar feelings that you have about Nier with Mass Effect 1. To me, Mass Effect 1 is legitimately one of the best science fiction stories, not video games, stories ever told. I remember that moment which I don't want to necessarily spoil it for you guys, but it is a really old game. But there's a huge twist at the end of that game, where I guess sort of towards the end of the second act, there's a huge twist. And I remember that being in it, man, playing that game, just like really being involved with the whole thing. And then when you realize you're sitting there, you're having this conversation with this super high intelligent alien life, and what it explains to you is actually going on was like, it blew my freaking mind. It blew my freaking mind. And although Mass Effect 2, which we were talking about off air, is much better mechanically, it's a much better made game mechanically. I still prefer Mass Effect 1 because it was less on rails, it was very open world, and that story, man, I just don't know. You can't replace that twist and the way that story went. And there are multiple ways that can end, right? So to me, Mass Effect 1 was like BioWare at their very best. I know some people out there, I saw a lot of KOTOR on...
A lot of KOTOR.
I love
sense.
KOTOR. I respect KOTOR, but it's just not in my top 5.
I mean, it was just one of those plot twists where, like, the second it falls into place, when you go back and replay the game, you can actually, like, see the pieces throughout
dude, for
and
sure.
see everything start to culminate. And not every piece of media... not even just does that, but does that well, even if they do it.
And one of
So
the best
it's
things
crazy.
about it is that it actually makes you sympathetic to certain characters that were villainous. It just does a lot from the story perspective that I was like, wow, this is so cool, man. This is so cool. So there's a reason that the Mass Effect franchise went on to do what it did, and then obviously, Andromeda, not the best look, but there's a reason that all that happened. And I think a lot of it has to do with that first game. So, Justin, hit us with your number 2.
Hidden with my number 2, the reason I couldn't put Final Fantasy XIV on this list is because I can only do one game per franchise, and I got to go with my favorite Final Fantasy, which is Final Fantasy IX.
Ooh, okay. So explain a little bit of why that is your favorite one.
So 9 was the last one that was released in the PS1 era, and when they dropped it, they kind of had this whole design philosophy of we need to take the best of the old games and mix it with like the best of the new games.
Okay.
So they kind of like went back to their roots after doing the controversial like junction magic system. I can easily break the game from Final Fantasy VIII.
Right.
It's a lot more streamlined. Every character has like a set defined role. You've got your thief, you've got your dragoon, you've got your black mage. The whole game in and of itself sort of plays out in this like Shakespearean fashion. They actually have like a little play you actually play through in some of the opening segments of the game.
Nice.
But the bad guy Kuja is very, very flamboyant. A lot of the way the game plays out is just super, super poetic. It's like if you called in Shakespeare to write a JRPG, Final Fantasy IX is what you would have gotten.
Nice. I like that. I like that. That should have been on the box.
It's so they should have. They really should have put that on the box.
Yeah.
Like, come on, gang.
Yeah. No, that's awesome, man. I think that's a hell of a pick. I see some people saying in chat what their favorite Final Fantasy is. Guys, if you're a Final Fantasy fan, let us know in chat what your favorite Final Fantasy is. I see some votes for 10.
10 was great.
10 was absolutely great. Obviously 11 is my favorite, but 10 was really good. Yeah, I probably have
6,
to
if
say
you haven't
that.
played 6 also really, really good.
Yeah.
Tactics, oh my god, there's just so many.
Yeah, it's a great franchise with a lot of good stuff in there. It's too bad they're going to screw up that Avengers game coming out. Okay, going into my number 2, folks. It's a Halo game. It's Halo 2.
Dose.
Okay. I think Halo 2 is legitimately the best Halo game for sure. But again, it's not even really about that. That's not what this list is. This list is our favorite games, right? And so to me, Halo 2 hit me at a perfect time. And I was young. I had a ton of time to play games. It was the game everyone was playing. Everybody in school was testing their mettle at Halo. Everybody needed to know how good were you at Halo, right? Halo 1 had come out, made a big splash. A lot of people loved it. But when Halo 2 came out, that shit was the bomb, bro. It was everywhere. And this was also at a time, by the way, where our school just installed a network. For the very first time in our high school, we had an actual network that was basically like a glorified LAN that had like its own S server, D server, and all that kind of stuff, right? So we had that for the very first time, and we quickly discovered in school that we could plug in our Xbox into the Ethernet ports, access the network, and play LAN parties of Halo 2, like all the way across our high school. And we had a pretty big high school. So that was so cool, man. I remember having LAN parties at my house where we legitimately had like 30 people together and had all of these people playing Halo 2. And Halo 2, to this day, still functions better online with matchmaking and communication and ranking system than a lot of other games out there. Like literally, what generation is this? What generation of games are we in? Gen 7, Gen 8,
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah. Look, even in this current generation of games, there are AAA titles that launch online that don't even have matchmaking and team play and building that was on the level of Halo 2. That is not hyperbole. That shit is real, particularly when it comes to Nintendo. Those motherfuckers don't know how to do anything when it comes to online. Halo 2 functions better than almost the entire Nintendo library as far as matchmaking and playing online. But man, Halo 2, man. Wow, so many good times with Halo 2.
I was one of those unfortunate people that played as an elite, so I was
played
super,
as an elite
super
too.
easy to headshot.
No, I know.
but
The
whatever.
hitboxes were weird, but dude,
You took
I
you took
loved
the
it.
L. You took the L
Oh my
to
god,
be
for
an elite.
sure he took the L. The elites were dope. That shit was dope. Okay, so Justin, give me your number 2.
I gave you my number 2. We're on number 1.
Yes, that's what I said. Give me your number 1. It's wait a minute. It's not an American movie. How did it win Best Picture? Someone explain it to me. Okay, go ahead.
Okay,
Give me
okay.
your number 1.
Number 1 is also not an American game. It's a Polish game. And it's Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, baby! Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. Best game. Best game. Wow.
Yeah.
I can't
Tell us, man. Tell
even
us about
begin
it.
to go into with you how great Witcher 3 Wild Hunt is, because all of the side quests could be like their own main quests in the game. I've rarely seen a game where you go on a side quest and every single side quest you ever go on actually feels like it matters. It feels like it matters. It feels like you're actually making the change in the world you want to make. Geralt really gives off this vibe I've wanted to see in games for a really long time. You know how like the young protagonist is sort of like where people tend to go? Where, well, with Geralt, we get this, I am an old man that's done with this crap.
Yeah.
I am done with this crap. I am done
He's
mussing
get
about.
off your lawn. He's get off your lawn, Luke Skywalker.
It is old man picking
Yeah.
flower simulator. That
I
is
love it.
what it is. But what's even bigger to me with Witcher 3 isn't just like how complete and like fleshed out the main game felt, but how complete and fleshed out each subsequent expansion felt. Because
Yeah.
Hearts of Stone, 20-hour game that was an expansion, could be its own 20-hour game. Blood and Wine, 40-hour expansion that completely went in and subverted like fairy tale and Arthurian lore.
Love it.
Just Toussaint compared to like the main Temeria you were in, so vibrant, so colorful. They really just dove into that engine and just messed around with it, doing all of the things that they really felt they could do for one last hurrah. And the ending to Blood and Wine, I would really be hard pressed to see if The Witcher's actual author, Andrzej Sapkowski, could pull off an ending that satisfying. Because it just feels
Damn,
like
bro.
the perfect bookend to the entire
That's-
Witcher saga.
That's some
books
shots
included.
fired, bro. That's
I know.
some shots fired.
And he
But
doesn't like the games, but what are you going to do?
But I've heard that they're now going to start working together because the Netflix series was so successful. So,
Yes.
you know, look, money talks. Money brings everybody back to the table. So, yeah, we hope that they work that out. Okay, I'm going to give you guys my number 1. It's a Zelda game. It might not be the Zelda game you think. But again, this isn't necessarily about what's the best Zelda game. It's what's my favorite Zelda game. And my favorite Zelda game of all time is Majora's Mask, the sequel to Ocarina of Time. There have only been a few times that, actually only once, I think, that Zelda has done a direct sequel.
Yeah, only a couple times where it's been like explicitly hinted
Yeah,
at.
explicitly a sequel,
I will
yeah.
say though, you did pick the best Zelda game. I'm just gonna go out there
no,
with
I
ya.
know you would think that. Yeah, I know. And there's probably others that think that as well. But yeah, Majora's Mask to me was an amazing time. Also, too, here's another reason why this game was so important to me. It was a game that my sister and I played together, literally. But next to butt, sitting in front of our old tube television, handing off the controller, playing different parts, but like it was like our campaign. Like we played the game together most of the time. I would play it when she was gone sometimes as well. But like when she'd come back, she'd be like, "Well, where are we at? Did we get this mask? Or, did we beat this temple? Where are we at this temple and all that?" And so we had a great experience playing that game together, which was really cool. My sister and I didn't get to bond over a ton of different things like that. So it was so cool for us to sit down and play that game together. And by the way, I think the mechanics in that game with the masks, amazing.
Oh my gosh!
I
yeah.
100%ed that game. There was a way that you could get, if you got all 50 masks, then you got this bonus mask that would turn you into a giant. But that mask was only usable during boss fights.
Oh, it didn't turn you into a giant. It turned you into Adult Link, the fierce deity mask.
Yes. No,
Fierce-
I'm pretty sure you were a giant.
There was a giant mask too.
Oh,
that
maybe
you got
you're
to
right.
use.
Maybe they were
but
different.
The fierce deity mask turns you into Adult Link, and you got the sword that like shot discs.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah. So that was awesome, and you could only use that in boss fights. So then, like after we got that mask, we'd go back to all the temples and just refight. And the easiest one was a forest temple. So you just go back to the forest temple and you just fight to use that mask or whatever. But man, I loved Majora's Mask. I really thought it was awesome. I loved all the different temples that were in that game, and the concept of with time and the fact that the meteor is going to come in and crush it, and every single person that played Majora's Mask, they let the world blow up at least once.
You had to. You had to see what happened. You had to be like, this isn't really going to happen.
Yeah,
there's no way.
You had to see, and most of the time you were probably using your Gorgon mask, and you were rolling around like a donut, just zipping around.
Yeah, and then
That
you got
shit was
like
so cool.
superheated and got
Yeah.
the spikes and just
Yes.
bulldoze over things.
Yes,
Ooh.
yes. So Majora's Mask, my number one. But thanks for playing, guys. Thanks for doing that. What we're going to do is we're going to do Top 5 Tuesdays every Tuesday now. And we'll put up some polls on the social media and the different channels to pick whatever top 5 we'll do next week.